New fallout from the president's move on DACA. Mixed messages punting to Congress, nationwide protests. We'll look at how this mess could play out for the hundreds of thousands of Dreamers who are impacted. Don't bring in our panel of attorneys to analyze the law and order of it all. Then we head over to New Jersey, where day one of the corruption trial of the Garden State Senator Bob Menendez was an emotional and contentious day. We had a front row seat. Also, this video shows a police officer manhandling and arresting a nurse because she refused to hand over a blood sample. Imagine what could have happened if the body cam wasn't rolling. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. A busy hour ahead. Now, before we get to DACA, a quick update from our nation's capital. Now, this picture, it tells the story. Senate Minority Leader, New York's own Chuck Schumer, and President Trump looking like, well, good buddies. The president just cut a deal with Democrats to raise the debt limit and fund the government for 3 months. Republicans, none too happy. They wanted to raise it through the midterms next year so they wouldn't have to revisit again at the end of this year. But Trump, he sided with the Dems right out of the gate. Republicans say they were blindsided, and as I said, they are none too happy. Now we get to the big story of yesterday and still today. I'm talking about the Dreamers and the administration's move to end DACA. Again, we're talking about young people who came here as children, and they had no say in the process whatsoever. And there's a whole lot of them in this country. At least 800,000 who enrolled in the DACA program, and estimates say perhaps at least 2 million total here would qualify under this description. 42,000 of them are New Yorkers, 22,000 living across the river in New Jersey. And let's not overlook the Dreamers who served this nation in our military. 359 of them enrolled just last year. Well, tonight, they and the rest of us waiting to see what happens next. I want to start here with the head-scratching mixed messages coming from where else but the White House. Let's bring in a senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman, who's been following
Just one of many angles on DACA we're going to cover in the next few minutes. Rich, 24 hours ago, there were no mixed messages on DACA coming from the Trump White House, just that they wanted the program to end, something we heard from the president, his press secretary, and the attorney general.
Speaking to members of Congress, they want to be able to do something and do it right. And really, we have no choice. We have to be able to do something.
It also denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs.
Well, I have a great heart for the folks we're talking about, a great love for them. Hopefully, now Congress will be able to help them and do it properly.
But last night came a curveball from the president's Twitter feed, all in the tweet's last 5 words. If Congress can't solve DACA, quote, I will revisit this issue. Not end DACA, revisit the issue. Seems confusing, so Trump was asked this morning if he was having any regrets about that decision.
No second thoughts.
But that tweet sent conservative media, his conservative media, into a tizzy. Breitbart blasting Trump, calling him a paper tiger, saying he may be caving on DACA, calling the tweet a blunder and that Trump is giving it all back, adding he may have backed himself into taking any deal Congress passes, even one that's more generous to Dreamers, and questioning if Trump will lose his base on this. Ann Coulter, of all people, putting a bow on it, saying Trump could lose millions of voters who she says may never vote Republican again. Rich?
You know, Andrew, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving players here. You just went through a few of them.
And we'll hear more in a few minutes.
Where does the president have more of a risk here, just politically speaking? Is it with his base, who this is theoretically important to, if you believe Breitbart and Coulter? Or is it through those independents who, if you believe the poll numbers, say overwhelmingly, this isn't what they wanted, what he did yesterday?
The core of his base wants DACA action because they want immigration. We have numbers on that in a little bit. The problem is that Trump just undermined himself with that tweet late last night. So even the people who are fighting for Trump's policies really don't know what he's standing for and how hard he's going to fight for it. So, you know, the Republican members of Congress, many of them are putting themselves at great risk, either supporting DACA and trying to get those protections back to the DACA kids, or by trying to see it repealed. And they don't know if the president's going to have their back on this. And this may be the most difficult decision that they've had to make so far, at least under the Trump administration.
And you have X number of states who are filing a suit here to try and get rid of DACA, while others are trying to protect it. The mess goes literally along state lines.
It does, and if you think about some of the key states in play, I mean, Arizona, where Trump has declared war against the 2 U.S. senators there, this is the kind of issue that could turn Arizona blue, which would be a huge blow for the Trump administration. Texas is not as red as it used to be, and Texas has an enormous Hispanic population. And to see DACA being waived in the middle of the recovery from Hurricane Harvey could take a lot of people and could put a lot of districts in play and change some perceptions there. This is dangerous stuff that the Republican Party is playing with.
Now, as Andrew says, dangerous stuff. It's a life and death issue for its enrollees, but it's also a political hot potato. So what do both sides want in the DACA fight, and what are those likely end games, Andrew? Because we mentioned before, you got the different states right now, but also you have different administrations, a lot of people here, and a lot of different agendas.
And figuring out what everybody wants is what we're going to focus in, and we'll focus in on that game theory, so to speak, and not what's in anybody's heart or mind. For the president, he needs a victory, something he can claim he championed and resolved. DACA has been unresolved since 2012. Immigration policy has gone more than a generation without resolution. So any conclusion or resolution could count as a win for Trump. Now, taking a hard stand on DACA also reverses yet another Obama-era policy. There's a plus in that for Trump. He loves reversing Obama policies. And at a time when his numbers have been foundering, a move on DACA plays not just to Trump's base, but to the base of his base. This is an interesting stat from the Republican primaries last year. Among voters who listed immigration as a top concern, 60% of those Republicans voted for Trump. He only got 30% of every other Republican. So immigration and the voters who vote on it are the core of his support. And ending DACA speaks to those voters. The White House also hoping that the move on DACA leads Dreamers to leave the U.S. on their own. This is from their talking points that include an urge to Dreamers to prepare to leave the country without being forced. They're hoping that Dreamers will, to use a term we heard from Mitt Romney, self-deport. So what's the end game? Lots of talk about DACA deals, including possibly trading DACA for border wall funding, trading DACA for other border security measures, or trading it for comprehensive immigration reform, though that seems less likely. It's also possible that DACA is popular enough with just enough members of Congress from both parties that Congress could actually work a deal and save DACA all on its own. And if you listen to top lawmakers discuss DACA, you see a deal may actually be possible.
This is a home that people know, and they don't know any other country as a home. And so I think there's a serious humane issue here that needs to be dealt with.
If a Clean Dream Act does not come to the floor in September, we're prepared to attach it to other items this fall until it passes.
You know, I heard what Senator Schumer there said here, and it's almost the converse of what we've heard in so many other issues in the past, which is you vote for this thing clean here, or we'll attach it to something else, right, Democrats, and then you'll have a poison pill in your hands who will vote against it. Democrats, even though minorities in House and Senate here, they believe they have the leverage with this. Do you think they're right, or are they overplaying their hand?
They do. There's a difference between the policy and the electoral impact in all this. In terms of the policy, there are enough Republicans who want to do this that even if you lose some from the margins, if you add those Republican votes to the Democrats who would all vote for a DREAM Act or for a DACA continuation, you might have enough votes to get there. The problem is, and what might stop that is the electoral impact. Republicans might say, if we give this up, we lose an issue with our base, or we open ourselves up to a primary challenge. That's it. The other big thing in the 2014 and 2016 cycles, more Republicans lost their seats based on immigration. Immigration was a key issue in some of those. If you go back to Eric Cantor in 2014, who was the #2 Republican in the House, immigration was a huge issue in that race, and he lost a seat in an upset.
Make a bet for me here. What's more likely? The president tries to attach this to getting funding, even partial funding for his wall, and the Dems capitulate? Or the Democrats say, do your worst here, we're willing to do this, and also run the risk that they'll jeopardize a deal that could help the kids if they don't get it their way, pure and simple?
I get the feeling that attaching it to the wall and making it a trade-off wall funding for DACA is a non-starter. Democrats aren't going to vote for that.
That would look really bad.
They would look terrible, and even just capitulating anything on the wall makes them look bad. So I don't think that's likely. I think the threat is that Democrats attach it to the budget, which will get pushed now into December. And then as we close in on that deadline, you might actually see an independent deal with Republicans and some Democrats to approve at least a stopgap DACA in the meantime.
So let's go outside of Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, what other factors that people aren't talking about yet, but you think they might, could move the needle on this issue?
There's a lot of them. One of them is popular and public support, and we're seeing that from a lot of different sources, including universities, faith leaders, and even in the business community, plus the general public. Let's start there. Even before the decision to end DACA, the program enjoyed support from 2/3 of the public. That's helpful. And since the decision went public, leaders of more than 300 companies, including the big ones shown here, have said they support DACA and would help employees who are dreamers. The head of Microsoft pledging to help DACA workers even in their court cases if need be. Apple's Tim Cook made his company's support of dreamers a personal one. Check his Twitter feed for the details. This as reports continue to come of religious leaders from all faiths and at all levels pushing to protect dreamers, as more than 600 college and university leaders do the same, with some, including the University of Pennsylvania and the University of California system, they're now promising to turn their campuses into sanctuaries for DACA students. We've heard of sanctuary cities, sanctuary campuses.
We mentioned before students, kids that are literally serving in the military. You're talking about students here, bedrocks of communities, people who literally died as first responders down there.
And we talk about age differences in a lot of different
Yep.
issues. This is one where there's an enormous age difference because a lot of the young people under 30 know dreamers. They work with dreamers. They go to school with dreamers. It's personal.
To that end here, talking about putting a human face on it, Andrew, thank you. We're going to share stories of people who are in limbo because of what's going on with DACA. We're going to literally bring on a couple folks who go by the title Dreamers here and fit the description. They'll be on our set tomorrow. And if you are a dreamer and would like to tell us your story and how you're feeling, email us to rfl@rnntv.com or post your story on our Facebook page. That's Facebook.com/Richard French Live. We'll look forward to hearing from you, and you can see your story on our program tomorrow night. All right, coming up next, as I told you, we've got the legal panel coming in here. We looked at the political issues surrounding DACA. Up next, we'll take a look at those legal ones. That's straight ahead.